The mirror wife. The villagers whispered about Evelyn. She had once been radiant, her smile warm enough to thaw winter. But now, her skin was pale as candle wax, lips always quivering, and her eyes never met anyone else's. She lived alone in the crumbling Renmore estate. Her only company, an ornate mirror she'd covered in black velvet. They said she'd been cursed. Years ago, Evelyn had married a charming stranger, Julian, who wandered into town with storm-gray eyes and a voice that dripped honey and danger. They wed within a week, but on the night of their union, her screams echoed through the valley. Julian was never seen again. Some claimed he'd run off. Others whispered he had never been human. Evelyn never spoke of him. She only started wearing gloves, long sleeves, and veils, always hiding her skin. Every night, candlelight flickered through her windows, and sometimes you could hear her weeping. Other nights, it sounded more like laughter, twisted, mocking. Curious children dared each other to peek through her windows. One boy swore he saw Evelyn standing before her mirror, whispering to it, her reflection not mirroring her movements. Instead, it smiled while she wept. Another girl claimed Evelyn's reflection bled from the eyes. Then the disappearances began. First a hunter vanished near the woods behind the estate, then a milkmaid, then 2 of the village councilmen. Always at dusk, always after speaking ill of Evelyn. One brave soul, Father Marrow, approached her doorstep, determined to exorcise the devil from her home. He never made it back. All they found was his crucifix, melted and warped, on her porch. Eventually, the mayor ordered the house condemned, but when the men came with torches, the estate had already burned to the ground the night before. No body was found. They thought Evelyn was gone. But sometimes, even now, people hear weeping in the wind. They see a woman walking in fog, her face hidden behind a veil. And mirrors, if you look too long into one on certain nights, you might catch a glimpse of her behind you, still watching. Evelyn had made a pact in her desperation when Julian revealed his true form, that of something ancient and cruel, a collector of souls. In exchange for her life, she agreed to carry the curse forward, to live eternally haunted as a vessel between this world and the next. The mirror had been the gateway. Now, she was the gatekeeper. She cannot die. She cannot escape. But she can trade places. So if you ever find an old mirror, the glass rippling like water, and you see a woman inside who doesn't quite move like you, don't touch it. She's still waiting. Mrs. Yesterday, deleted author. Dunsany House had gone to the dogs. Mrs. Callahan did her best to preserve the upstairs master, but the rest of the estate was sliding into a tacky decline. When the family sold it to be converted to a historic bed and breakfast, only loyalty, and perhaps a numbing sense that she had nowhere else to go, prompted her to stay. That, and the pleas of her husband, who had lived there all his years. Had he survived to see what would become of the place, cracked molding and shoddy pipework, he'd surely have urged the family to donate it to the National Trust instead, and both of the Callahans would have resigned at once. Too late now. Here she was, a custodian of Edwardian trinkets and dilute nostalgia. Of course, the house was full of stories, as such houses often are, and she shared them when the mood struck her. But the haunts that thrilled her as a young girl now seemed quaint at best. The specter of a lesser Tudor noble would be incongruous here. Who could imagine the gray baronet pacing the dingy linoleum, clutching a bleeding pike wound, gently moaning over the rattle of the window-mounted air conditioners? To say nothing of the white bride. A euphemism, of course. Her tattered dress bore little resemblance to a bridal gown, save for its long train. Better, though, to say bride than banshee. As a child, Mrs. Callahan heard the white bride once, long after midnight, not long before the young master died of a leaky heart. For a moment, she thought the sound had been the boy's mother, but that scream was inhuman. And what was more, it had come from outside. She had not dared to look out the window, but she always remembered. Years later, when her husband passed, she heard nothing at all. Now it is December 5th, 1968, long after midnight. Something has wakened Mrs. Callahan. A soft noise, almost like the wind. But there is no wind outside, only snow. No, snow and something else, thin and gauzy against the drifts. It is her, and softly, it is screaming. It has been screaming quietly for years on end, but Mrs. Callahan never heard until now. Trembling, the old caretaker rises from her bed. She looks outside. It draws closer. Soon it is inches from the glass. Eyes wide, mouth gaping. Mrs. Callahan's eyes are wide too. When she finally speaks to the bride, it is in a whisper. "We missed you so much." She slides back the latch and lets the window swing open. The Thing in the Trunk. After Grandma died, I inherited the house, an old Victorian monstrosity that sat hunched like a gargoyle on a hill. It groaned at night, smelled like mold and iron. I was supposed to clean it out before the realtor arrived. I left the attic for last. The stairs protested under my weight, each step slower than the last. I pushed open the hatch. Dust exploded into the air like ash. It was freezing up there. The attic was mostly boxes and old furniture, except for one thing, a massive padlock trunk shoved in the far corner. Its wood was dark, warped by time, and deep gouges scoured the surface, as if something had fought to stay inside. The key dangled from the latch. Against my better judgment, I turned it. The lock clicked. The lid lifted with a groan, like a yawn from something ancient. Inside was a bundle wrapped in rotting flannel. A wet, coppery smell wafted out. I peeled it back and nearly dropped it. Teeth. Hundreds of them, strung together with old wire, matted with what looked like hair. Some were still bloody. Others had bits of blackened gum and flesh clinging to the roots. Baby teeth, molars, fangs. At the bottom of the trunk, beneath the garlands, was a photograph. My grandmother, much younger, smiling stiffly. Beside her stood a tall, gaunt thing with impossibly long arms and a face hidden behind a veil of teeth. On the back of the photo, "Do not feed it after dark. Do not let it hear your name." Something shifted behind me. I turned, but the attic door slammed shut. The trunk snapped shut too, but not before I saw the writhing shape inside it. Pale, skinless arms twitching beneath the teeth blanket. A thin cry echoed in the attic, like a baby. No, a mimic of one. Then I heard the sound. Teeth chattering, not from the cold, from hunger. I backed up. My foot hit something soft. A second bundle, smaller. I unwrapped it. A skull, child size, split cleanly down the middle, hollowed out like a bowl. Inside it, a tongue, pink and twitching, still wet. I screamed. From the trunk, something pulled itself out. It moved like a spider, its limbs bending wrong, its face, a patchwork of teeth and flayed flesh, grinned wide. "Emily," it whispered. My blood froze. I never told it my name. It lunged. I remember the crunch of bone, the scream that wasn't mine. My arm, its jaw clamped down, ripping muscle like paper. I made it out somehow. I slammed the attic door and nailed it shut. Now, I hear it some nights. Click, click, scrape. It's still up there. And it still remembers my name. The Witch's Promise by Page Turner 627. I never believed in curses, not until my last day in Papua New Guinea. The market of Port Moresby was bustling, a vibrant tapestry of colors and sounds, and amidst it all was an old woman with a table full of strange amulets. Her eyes locked onto mine as I passed. "Protect yourself," she croaked, her hands trembling as she held out a gnarled dark talisman. I laughed, more out of discomfort than amusement. "No thanks," I said, brushing past her. I was there for photographs, not superstitions. Her voice followed me, raspy and chilling. "You will wish you had it," she warned. That night at the hotel, the weirdness began. My waiter walked straight past me 3 times before I practically shouted for his attention. He blinked rapidly when he finally noticed me, as if seeing me for the first time. Annoyed, I chalked it up to a long day. The next morning was worse. I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror fading, like mist over a river. I blinked hard, shook my head, and looked again. Clear as day, there I was. I must be losing it, I thought. But then, at the airport, a ticket agent looked right through me when I tried to check in. I waved my hands, I called out. Nothing. It was like I was air. I glanced down at my hands. Translucent. My heart pounded, and panic clawed up my throat. The witch's words echoed in my mind, a taunting whisper in the growing chaos around me. Desperate, I caught a cab back to the market. The witch was there, her eyes finding mine instantly, a smug, eerie smile creeping across her face. Please, I begged, my voice thin, probably as faint as my body. I'll buy the amulet. Please, just stop this. Her smile never wavered. Too late for amulets, she hissed. You ignored the spirit's first offering. Now, you belong to them. I stared at her, horror-struck, as people passed around me, oblivious. I was fading, my very existence slipping away. What do they want? I managed to choke out. Her smile widened, chilling me to the bone. They are lonely, always so lonely. They need company. Every ignored warning sends another to join them. I felt a coldness wrapping around my very soul, pulling me away. I turned, frantic, and caught my reflection in a nearby window. There was nothing. No one there. Just the bustling market and the living going about their lives. As the world dimmed, the last thing I heard was the witch's cackle, a sound that would haunt the nothingness I was becoming. In my final moment of clarity, I understood the cruel irony. I had become invisible in death, as I had been in life, unnoticed, fading away, just as I had made her feel at our first meeting. As I vanish into oblivion, I write this post in hopes that my tale warns others. Beware. Respect the unseen, or join the forgotten. My mom has never laughed. Unknown author. My mom raised me as a single parent and has been my best friend for as long as I can remember. She wasn't strict or serious. She had always been fun, supportive, and caring. She wasn't a psychopath, but she just never laughed. I didn't notice my mom's inability to express or react to humor until one 4th of July, when I was about 6. Everyone went to Grandma's place to celebrate. My uncle was like any other typical barbecue uncle, talking to everyone and cracking jokes as he cracked some eggs and grilled some steak. He took one of the eggs in his hand and tried his luck with a "why did the chicken cross the road" joke. He hit gold. Everyone standing near the grill bust out in laughter, all except my mom. I realized then that I hadn't ever seen her laugh. She would crack a grin, but there was never a maybe humor just wasn't her thing. Being the curious 6-year-old that I was, later that night I asked her, Mom, why don't you laugh? She did not even attempt to react to my question. She just kept staring blankly at the book she was reading. This was the first time in my life being ignored by her. She clearly didn't want to answer, so I stopped asking her. Instead, I made it one of my life goals as a kid to somehow make my mother laugh. Every morning before going to school, I'd attempt to get at least a chuckle out of her. I've tried everything: knock-knock jokes, dad jokes, dark humor, you name it. Nothing worked. It's like the part of her brain that processes humor wasn't even there. She was always off on Saturdays, so we made it a movie night. Every Saturday we would sit on the couch together and watch whatever I agreed on. I had probably bought out the whole aisle of DVDs of the comedy genre at Blockbuster as one of my attempts. Just like my thoughtfully constructed jokes that went out her other ear, the movies did not work. One Christmas, I bought her a paperback book titled How to Make Anyone Laugh and waited to see her reaction as she unwrapped the gift. She teared up as she stared at it. I didn't understand why she was so sad over a book that I gave her as a joke. I swear I could hear her faint whimpering as she attempted to cry. My obsession over my mom's apathy towards humor had gone overboard, and I was breaking her. I felt an absolute scum of a daughter and stopped all my attempts at humoring her. I'd accepted it. I locked the fact in the back of my head and never gave it a second thought. My mom just doesn't laugh. The years passed in a haze as I grew older. Soon, I moved out to attend university and found my soulmate at a stand-up comedy bar. And we got married as soon as we graduated. After we settled down and started doing well at our jobs, we tried, and I gave birth to the most beautiful baby girl. Her laugh always melted my heart. I would laugh with her, something my mother was never able to give me. My daughter was almost 4 months old, barely even able to crawl, when it happened. I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of her laughing her little lungs out. It was unusual because she usually woke up crying, not by laughing. I wish I had let her laugh herself to sleep instead of checking up on her that night. I opened the door to her room, which was slightly ajar, and looked inside. I saw it holding my daughter up from the crib. It wasn't human. It was all black, like a silhouette. It had a face, arms, and legs, but they were all black. It had a head but no face, just an arc with sharp teeth the size of pineapples, pointed out and protruding in a freak smile from the void where the mouth of a human should be. My maternal instinct was in overdrive, yet I was still frozen in place. Its torso was swaying as if it were laughing. I took one more look at my daughter in its hands. She was asleep. It wasn't her that was laughing. It was laughing in my daughter's voice. I have heard her laugh almost every single night since. Yet even as her mother, I don't have the courage to go to her room again. I get reminded of it again. My husband has been putting her back to sleep daily and is already fed up with the responsibility that I've been ignoring. He didn't see what I saw. I cannot laugh anymore. My husband seems really distant lately. He might leave me, leave us, like my father left my mother when I was still an infant. I'm scared for my daughter, and for her children if she ever has any. I hope not. I hope she doesn't notice that I don't laugh. I won't have the courage to tell her. My mother has never laughed, and now I know why. Whiteface by DreamEffects. Mariella believed in ghosts. She had grown up on warnings of La Llorona and El Coco, and her grandmother always swore the spirit of a nurse had saved her life once. As long as she could remember, she'd believed such otherworldly things existed. So she wasn't surprised when a low moaning drifted through her window one night. Not surprised, but terrified all the same. The cries raised in volume and pitch, sobbing, then screaming. Mariella huddled under her blanket, too frightened to move. Only her eyes peeked out, glued to the window. "Don't come here," she pleaded silently. "Please, don't come here." Lightning flashed, illuminating a white face pressed against the glass. Its dark hair hung ragged, its mouth poured blood, and its black eyes locked with hers. Mariella fainted. She woke early the next morning, exhausted but alive. Too many scary movies, she thought, as she buttered a slice of toast. In the warm light of the sunrise, she easily dismissed the previous night as a dream, munching her breakfast contentedly. Until sirens tore through the quiet morning, red and blue lights flashing outside. The pounding on the door brought back her terror. She let the police officers in, her last bite of toast going down like gravel. Yes, she believed in ghosts, but the words the officers spoke were somehow less believable. The victim. Tongue cut out. Found outside your home, ma'am. Another soft moan cut through her daze. Except this one, she realized, was coming from herself. The Dark Side of Hollywood, Part 3. The Starlet and the Husband. I ask for your undivided attention once again as our subject enters the room. A woman of great renown, her grace and elegance knows no bounds, and while she is now middle-aged and has been on the scene for some time now, she is still as beautiful as ever. Just look at the people stare in amazement at her beauty. She commands any room she enters. I, of course, am referring to movie starlet Julie Lamont, star of stage and screen. What else needs to be said about this legendary actress? A multiple award winner who boasts 1 Oscar win, 3 Tony Awards, and 2 Golden Globes. She truly is Hollywood royalty, even compared to the other greats of her day. A rising star by the time she was 12, Julie was already a household name, thanks in part to her popular Lamont and Rooney Mysteries series, which she starred alongside Mickey Rooney. After missing out on the lead role in The Wizard of Oz, which went to her longtime rival, Judy Garland, she quickly jumped to Broadway and found success with the hit show Baby Needs a New Pair of Shoes, but Daddy's Broke, which she starred alongside Walter Pidgeon. She became the youngest to ever win a Tony Award, and the show, during its run, became the longest-running show in Broadway history. She then returned to Hollywood, where she would star in the show's film adaptation, starring alongside Spencer Tracy, which she became close friends with, along with his partner, Katharine Hepburn. Ms. Lamont took no prisoners after her early success and let no one stand in her way on her meteoric rise. Her feuds with Judy Garland and Joan Crawford were legendary, and even as a young up-and-comer, she refused to take any nonsense from any man. She earned her roles legitimately. She never sat on any executive's or producer's casting couch for a role, and if anyone ever tried, she slapped them and refused to work with them ever again. Along the way, on her journey to the top, she met a young chorus dancer during her Broadway show Latin Nights and Fever Dreams, a gentleman by the name of Ricardo Sands, who eventually became her husband. She pulled him from relative obscurity and turned him into a star by having him co-star in 4 of her movies during the 50s, and they also starred together in their hit TV show, The Housewife and the Bandleader. The years were kind to both, career-wise, and they grew their family by 2, but marriage-wise, it was turbulent, and rumors of cheating and abuse ran rampant across the Hollywood social scene. Ms. Lamont, however, was very proud, and once these rumors became public, in an article by gossip columnist Hedda Hopper, she became enraged. Ms. Lamont confronted Hedda at a dinner party hosted by Vincent Price and made quite the fiery scene. She took the paper the column was written in and threw it at Ms. Hopper's feet, screaming to stop writing falsehoods about her marriage, that the rumors were untrue and fabricated lies, because she would never stand for that sort of action and humiliation from her husband. She then exclaimed if it were to be true, she would kill him. Then, before walking away, she took her black dinner-gloved hand and slapped Miss Hopper across the face, smiled, and warned her to never do it again. Beware of the Lamont temper, people would say. You just never know when it might strike or how bad it might be. Which brings us to our present situation. Ms. Lamont and her husband are throwing their annual Oscar announcement party, and the who's who are present, waiting to find out if they've been nominated. But where is the hosting couple, you ask? They are not present, even though Ms. Lamont is waiting to hear if she's been nominated once again for her latest picture, Black Lace and Dark Promises. Word has it the two haven't been seen since an embarrassing dust-up occurred an hour earlier, when her husband, in a drunken state, became belligerent and started groping several female party guests. When she confronted her husband to try and get him to settle down, for he was embarrassing her, it is said he was heard whispering to her, "The rumors are all true. I've been cheating on your ass since the beginning." They were last seen heading towards the back of the house minutes later. That is until now. I bring you back to the beginning of our story. She's just entered the room, returning to her and her husband's party after an hour's absence, looking lovely and captivating the room. There's just one problem. Where's her husband? No one seems to notice at first, and cheers of congratulations ring out for her as news of her and a few other guests' Oscar nominations are announced. Someone finally asks, "Where's Ricardo at?" Ms. Lamont smiles and says he's sleeping it off. "He's had one too many rum and cokes," she said laughingly. Never losing her cool, she stands composed, enjoying her party. But I can see a bead of sweat trickle down the side of her face. Can't you? Little does anyone know that her husband is laying in the bathtub, dead, with a fireplace poker sticking out from the top of his head. He embarrassed her for the last and only time No one cheats on Julie Lamont, she exclaimed as she drove the poker into his skull. Now she stands in the middle of the room, surrounded by her party guests, giving the best acting performance of her life. No one suspects a thing, and no one will ever find out a thing. You see, after she dispatched her husband from this earth, she called famed Hollywood fixer Eddie Tremantle. She wasn't going to take the rap for killing her husband. No. Instead, you'll read in the papers tomorrow. Movie star dies in horrible car crash in Beverly Hills. Alcohol is expected to be involved. Stars like Miss Lamont don't pay for their crimes. But this all goes to show you, it's even tough for stars to find love, especially when you find it on the dark side of Hollywood.